Coming up on Techzilla, what's new about Novatel's latest USB EVDO modem? How about GPS and data storage? Plus, impress your family and friends this holiday season and take picture-perfect photos inside. And back up your data online. You never know when disaster will hit. In this week's episode, which is brought to you by Drovo, GoDaddy.com, Team Fortress, and the zany zebra playing love songs on a banjo in a cornfield. Hello and welcome to Techzilla. I'm Jessica Corbin.
I'm Patrick Norton.
And it is about that time.
Well, CES is coming up, Consumer Electronics Show.
That, which is like
and the New Year's.
Equivalent to, for me, Christmas. Because I've been a very good girl this year. I've asked Santa for some electronics, namely, a new digital
You've been a good girl
camera.
this year.
I mean, good enough.
To arrest a lawsuit in that incident in Key West.
Nano iPod and a digital camera.
Nice.
Yeah.
You excited?
Good enough. I am excited.
We also want to actually greetings to everybody who's celebrating or already celebrated Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, the equinox, and any of a grab bag of festive religious holidays that take place this time of year here in Northern California.
Yes.
And around the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
And can you feel the studio vibrating, by the way? This is the creepiest thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if somebody's testing a generator downstairs. Maybe it's another diesel truck out back idling. But every so often I can hear my keyboard start to buzz and move on the table.
Yep, just trust that
it's just
he
weird.
Feels like he's in the midst of some electromagnetic frequency nightmare in the center here. So he's doing
what I feel like is one of those little football players on the games from the 60s where it vibrates. Waterproof iPod cases. I thought I had an iPhone case that was waterproof.
iPod
Where is
cases,
it?
Okay.
Yeah. A bunch of people have been actually talking about, like your Nano, people have been talking about waterproof cases. And I was just about to emulate this, which is a OtterBox case like the one I have for my iPod.
Yes.
A friend of mine bought one recently.
Yes.
And the case, not an OtterBox, another brand, and it didn't actually fit his new Nano. The hole was in the wrong spot for the what do you call that thing? The headphone jack. You're like fascinated.
Well, I've actually never seen one of these before.
Well, that's just a regular.
Nor do I really know what the use of it would be unless I'm whitewater rafting.
Yeah, well, basically, like. You mock.
Or take it into my bathtub.
The purpose of this one was talking about OtterBox actually has a new iPhone case. And I was about to throw it in a bucket of water last night to make sure everything was sealed. And I realized the new iPhone case is actually not a waterproof case, but sort of a dustproof and shockproof case. So the idea is that you can protect the screen and basically you can see where I just smacked the screen. That actually shows up there. Can you see that?
You smacked it.
Dents in the screen.
Yep.
But the idea is that obviously you wrap this one and it's a little more secure if you're worried about damaging your electronics. Now, if you're looking for a waterproof iPod case, I really recommend the OtterBoxes because they actually fit and they do an amazing job. I have one that's probably like 2 years old now. And it's actually, what I usually use it for is down in Baja where everything is really dusty and crudded up.
Yeah.
I have it in the OtterBox. The OtterBox gets kind of duct taped to the dashboard and that keeps my iPod from getting ruined.
Totally. I guess it's just because it kind of throws me when you call it a waterproof case, but you can also use it just for, a dustproof case or just,
well, I mean, in this
being really hard on your iPod case.
Well, I know people who actually kayak, and it's a little weird to see people sailing. I know people who kayak with headphones on and surf. Once in a while, I see somebody surfing. I don't know how they keep the headphones in, even the ones that drill halfway to your brain.
Yeah.
Well, I think half the fun is like listening, for sharks.
Yeah.
Or otters, actually.
Yeah.
Who sneak under your surfboard to try to get sharks to attack you.
Okay.
That's a very Northern California surfing experience. Anyhow. Whatever. It's like obscure reference day. We've also been working on the Ultimate Car PC over at System, the show I do with David Randolph, the guy that's building the studio. If you hear hammering and screaming of cursing, that would be Randolph having trouble with the new control panel. And one of the things we played around with is an SSD drive, a solid state drive from Samsung. They were gracious enough to loan us one. And this is something people have been asking about because they're starting to show up in notebooks. They are super expensive. Hella expensive would be a good phrase for that. And I have it here in an external drive enclosure. And that's basically what the drive looks like. It looks like a regular 2.5 inch notebook drive, but instead of being filled with a spinning disk, it actually has rows of memory chips.
Okay.
So that's what makes it solid state. There's no moving parts inside of it. And what's really interesting about that, and we're going to cut to the fabulous movie playing. I have a movie playing off of this, and normally if you have a sort of low-end drive, and something as simple as the vibration on a plane, like a jet engine will do this, or if you're on a car, it's not on a great road, there's a lot of vibration. It's going to skip, right?
Yeah.
So doing something like this is usually really bad to the hard drive and a great way to make it die. And you'll notice something, it's like not even phasing this.
Right, because that little video right there is playing. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's kind of nice, you know, in the rough environment. So what we're playing around with this sort of car PC is something that's not going to die.
Right.
So hooking that up to a mini ATX board. Now, here's the thing though, they're super expensive right now, about $1,000. And
I'm sorry, how many gigs does that hold?
this is a whopping 64 gigabytes.
Okay.
So capacity is going to be lower than a rotating media, a traditional hard drive, and it's going to be vastly more expensive. So we're looking at about $1,000. You know, you're buying these usually, they're going to be an upgrade to, let's say, a Dell notebook or something. I want to thank Dell for loaning us all the machines on the set, or any of a number of other brands of notebooks out there. You're talking about like $1,000 upgrade. So they're super expensive right now. Now, as flash memory prices drop, you're going to expect these prices to drop. Think sub $500 for the drives. That's
as soon as like next year.
Yeah, I'm going to move this again because it's vibrating again. The performance is actually really interesting. Write speed, slower than a traditional hard drive. Read speed, much, much faster, like 20-30% faster. And what's really interesting is the access time. The time it takes to kind of like find the data you want, grab it, and pull it out to go to the CPU is impossibly fast, like 0.2 milliseconds on these. So the performance, the read performance is great, write performance not so hot. So if you're like capturing video, you know, it's going to be slower than a regular hard drive. If you're reading stuff, these are pretty fast. If you're looking for more performance issue, we've actually got a link to a great Extreme Check article in the show notes. Lloyd Case and the guys over there did a really good job benchmarking these, and it's kind of really interesting to look at the performance. So.
Is there any way that you can expand memory on this, or is it locked?
Well, as what's going to happen is I think they're basically, as the memory chips increase in capacity, right? In theory, you could, we'll pull up a picture. We got a picture up here. You can see that there. You can actually desolder all those like 42 zillion tiny little soldering points, maybe. But other than that, unless you can do a lot of like surface mount component soldering, you're not going to be upgrading this.
Okay.
What's interesting is. They basically use an algorithm that randomly kind of seeds the data on different parts of the drive. And you don't have to really worry about fragmenting on the drives because the access speed is so fast. But even with a good quality USB thumb drive, it should basically be assigning data and making sure it doesn't like rewrite to the same spot over and over again, which should give you like 1 million cycles, which is thousands of hours of use, like longer than you could possibly ever hope to be using that. So.
Cool. Thanks, Patrick.
You're welcome.
All right, so coming up, our resident gadget guy tests out the iRobot Looj gutter cleaner. It sure is cute, but does it work? But first, hey online chit chatters, if you're a big fan of GChat but an even bigger fan of AIM, you're gonna love what I'm about to say. That's right, Google Talk has integrated AOL Instant Messenger into its chat client. So by clicking the triangle next to your status message, there is now the option to sign on to AIM. The good, you can now store and search your AOL chats. The bad, if you have a buddy on AIM and Gmail, there will be some doubling up. Check it out on your Gmail. This week's Techzilla is brought to you by Team Fortress, available now. Love multiplayer action games? Then you'll really love Team Fortress. It's not like those other titles. TF2's characters have it all. Different classes, different tactical abilities, even different personalities, so you'll always have a fresh game. Thanks to Valve's next-gen animations technology, you'll enjoy TF2's signature art style. Bright colors and a lighthearted feel keeps gameplay less serious and more fun.
It's the holiday season, and chances are you're going to be taking a lot of photographs indoors, which stinks because chances are your Snapchat drawer is filled with funky pics. Is that Uncle Nestor? I can't tell. He's kind of... Or the shaky pics or the shiny lights in the neighbor's house? Yeah, well, you know what? Our own Neha Tawari has some help for you.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good.
Are you excited about the holidays?
I've got a baby. I have a baby. My mom's like, so are we going to get more pictures?
Right,
so
baby's first Christmas.
Bring the tips. Because you know what? I got to get this right the first time because we're never having another first Christmas.
It's never going to be able to be reenacted.
That's true. Well, we could fake it.
Well, you don't want to do that. But anyways, I think the first and foremost thing is like, if you're taking a picture inside, turn your flash off.
Okay.
The best thing to do to create natural illumination is to turn on all the lamps in your house. Try to make it as well lit as possible.
So we don't want the big shiny baby with the big bluish light from the flash.
No. I mean, it's not a good look. It's not natural, and that's annoying, let's face it.
The baby hates that.
Right. And also there's special light bulbs that they have.
A lot of the ones you see on the shelves, right, where it's like natural light. Well, like GE's reveals one of them. They filter out the yellows that usually color tungsten bulbs, and your photos can be a much more softer, more pleasing light.
Right, and also where you have your subjects in relation to that light, that wonderful tungsten light that you're talking about, is pretty important. You don't want to have Aunt Martha with the big bulb behind her because she's probably going to look like this big dark glob.
You know what are a nightmare? Halogen lamps. The big like 5 billion watts one in the corner, and you see somebody and there's like the light exploding from their head
Right.
and the big dark spot where their face is
But
supposed to be.
it's kind of a cool nimbus effect. Getting a little holy, getting a little spiritual.
So we want the light in the front.
Light in the front, that's probably the best way. Of course, don't blind your subjects or else you're gonna have a lot of squinting, which isn't cool.
Which is just like using the flash.
Right, and that's never as cool.
It's probably worth playing around before the big day.
Totally.
Turn the ceiling light on, turn it off, make the kids sit on the couch, start playing around with it.
Sure. And
Tune it up.
It's the most amateur mistake to just, all right, let me whip out my new digital camera and let's take some pictures.
Now, where's that focus on that one?
Yeah,
I actually saw a
exactly.
guy at a kid's Little League game once reading the manual while trying to. It was horrible.
Anyways, another thing, I clearly was not meant to be a surgeon. Like, I have a very shaky hand,
Yes, you
which explains
do.
why I'm not behind the camera because I can't do it. So something that I find really helpful is to lean against a hard surface. That's a wall, a door frame, anything like that will steady your hand. Also, some people say keeping it down low, but I have trouble seeing it. But if you have a different kind of camera, I'm sure that could kind of work out. Some of the newer ones have that going on. But it's important to keep a steady shot, especially when you have all these like blinking lights and all
You're
these.
trying to get the sort of the night picture of the Christmas tree.
Yes.
And you hit the button and it's like 1,000, 2,000, and you end up with the big shiny streaks.
Very cool, very Art Deco.
Should you get a tripod?
A tripod would be a great solution to this, and also you can steady your camera and step in front of your camera as well, and be a part of the portrait. Not just be the camera guy behind the camera. I mean, my poor dad is not in many of our pictures, circa 85 to 90, because there was no tripod around.
I think you should get him a tripod for Christmas.
Yeah.
And show him how to use the timer.
Totally. I think he'd be very much into that.
Now, Jim, our resident gadget file, put iRobot's Looj gutter robot. It's like a garden weasel for your gutters to the ultimate test. Let's see how well it fared.
So I got a bit of a problem. Rainy season is about to start here in California. I haven't cleaned my gutters for more than a year. I know they're full of leaves and mold and gross stuff, but I just don't want to go up there. Why? Well, cleaning gutters is dangerous, it's dirty, and it's one of the most despised tasks any homeowner can face. That's why I was so excited when this showed up. This is the iRobot Looj, and it's a new robot designed to take all the drudgery out of cleaning your gutters. Pop it in, it does the cleaning, you watch, you're done. No muss, no fuss, at least that's what they say. So here's how it works. This handle is removable, and it works as a remote control, communicating with the iRobot as it runs up and down through your gutters. What you do is you turn it on, it goes forwards and backwards, and then this is the auger right here, and it goes in two different directions and will supposedly clean all the stuff out of your gutter. Let's give it a try and see if it actually works. So you can see my gutters are pretty dirty. Look at this gross stuff. I'll pop this off. Now, one of the first problems I've run into is my gutter is kind of small. It's not that wide, and the iRobot doesn't really even fit in it that well. It's supposed to be flat on the bottom, but because it does go through the crossbars here, it looks like it might actually work. So we're gonna give it a try to see if it'll work or not. Whoa, look at that thing go. So I guess you just gotta make it go forwards and backwards. I'm turning the auger in different directions. I'm getting hit by stuff over here. So, the Looj didn't really solve my gutter problems. I'm gonna have to get up here and clean the whole thing off myself. But that's probably because my gutter's smaller than what they recommend. So, got a small gutter? It's not for you. What if you have a bigger gutter? I got it. Let's go to the hardware store. I'll get a more standard sized gutter. We'll fill it with some of my gutter junk and we'll see how well it cleans down there. Let's go. So I'm back from the hardware store with the biggest gutter I could find. One interesting thing though, it's still not 3 1/4 inches wide right here, which is what iRobot recommends for the Looj. Maybe in other parts of the country you've got bigger gutters. Here, doesn't look like it, but based on how it did on my gutters, I think it'll do all right. Let's get this thing gooped up and find out. So it moves pretty well. Let's turn the auger on. Let's turn that on. Well, I had a bit of a problem here because it just jumped right over. So my gutter's upstairs, too narrow, although it worked pretty well. This plastic gutter, not enough for it to get a traction on, and not enough to give it purchase to drive down the gutter. Probably not wide enough, although it seems like it's wide enough. It's just this gutter is not going to work either. I'll be back yet again with another gutter, and we'll give it one more try. Well, I must say that my experience with the Looj has been mixed. It worked okay on my gutters, which weren't wide enough. These, which still aren't wide enough, but they're the biggest ones at my hardware store, it failed miserably. Didn't work at all on the plastic one, crawled right out. It worked a little bit on this one right here, on the metal one, but it still climbed out. The tread came off. There's still all this goop in here. And yeah, the other thing, look at my driveway. There's stuff everywhere. So yeah, your gutters are gonna be clean, but what's this stuff gonna fall on? It's gonna fall on the roof, it'll go right back in the gutter, it'll fall on your patio or on the side of your house. Bottom line here, check the size of your gutter first. Frankly, after you run through your gutters, even if it doesn't work, I don't think you're gonna be able to return it.
Ouch. Okay, part of the problem there, all the sludge from the flat roof. Hopefully, you know, if you have leaves instead of gook in your gutters, it'll work a lot better. Now, coming up, natural disaster takes out your house. Not going to be a problem because we're going to show you how to back up your data online, not just in your house, which can, of course, burn to the ground or get flooded, or you get the idea. But first, our producer, Heather, has a pretty nifty pick for you.
Heads up, there's a unique breed of graphic novel on the loose. No cape-wearing superheroes, no evil villains with special powers, nobody that looks like Spider-Man or Wolverine. My friends, I give you Persepolis. It's an autobiographical comic strip, stark, expressive, even funny, that takes place in real life among real evils like war and revolution. Picture the Islamic Revolution of 1979. A curious, rebellious, 10-year-old Iranian girl named Margie is being raised by radical, free-thinking parents. Margie lives in her own fantasy world, trying to make sense of the chaos around her. It gets pretty deep at times, like when Margie imagines herself as a prophet. She looks to pop culture icons like Michael Jackson, Iron Maiden, and Nike sneakers as symbols of freedom. Don't we all, Margie? Don't we all? Persepolis is wise and wonderful. And lucky you, it's now adapted for the big screen and is out in theaters on Christmas Day.
This episode of Techzilla and the following backup segment are brought to you by Drobo, the world's first storage robot and the easiest way to protect your data. Drobo expands forever, and it's award-winning with the highest CNET rating for storage. Go to drobostore.com and save $50 by entering the code Techzilla.
All right, backing up data in your house is good, right? We've been hammering that if like all the family photos are on a single notebook and you break it, you're hosed. Now, if something catastrophic goes down, such as a fire, theft, earthquake, a hurricane, that's a big one.
Flood.
And you know that.
Sorry, I couldn't keep going.
No.
Tell me when to stop.
I've been through floods. Floods suck. Floods suck. Anyhow, if your house floods or burns to the ground or whatever it is, right, the drive, even the backed up drive containing your data can get destroyed.
Right.
This is bad. This is what's interesting, like when you start thinking about online backups are a great way to kind of double up on your data. So, and the idea is that, you know, I'm going to amalgamateddatabackups.online.com, whoever that might be. And in theory, right, they've got this like area of Kansas and they're underground and it's, you know, it's a bunker. It's like a bomb-proof bunker in the middle of nowhere. So
You've been to these places.
I've been to a couple of them actually.
It doesn't shock me.
Well, it's pretty wild because it's like, imagine if the most paranoid person you ever knew got to design a building to keep servers safe.
Right.
In some cases, it's like Bob's Closet, and it's pretty, you know, weak. And in a lot of cases, they actually do just some incredible stuff to basically insulate the computers and the data from the universe. Right? It's pretty wild stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just it sounds funny, right? But you know, think about everybody who had computers that were in New Orleans,
Right.
or on the East Coast when a flood goes through, or if you're in, you know, Oklahoma and your town gets stomped flat.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of online services out there that back up information online. One of the more popular ones is Carbonite.
Which has received high marks in reviews from PC World, but we like what your fellow viewer Jared wrote in, and he said, before I started attending classes in fall of 2006, I purchased a 2-year subscription to Carbonite for my tablet. It backs everything up without any interaction, so I don't have to worry. For my new computer, it took about a week to back up the 50 gigs I threw on it, mostly pictures and songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, actually, so, you know, another fellow of you, Susie wrote in that used it. A bunch of you are actually using it. Now, we should point out here that your upload speed to an online server is gated by the upload speed of your internet connection. The slower your DSL, your cable modem, or heavens forbid, satellite connection is, the longer it's going to take to upload files. Now, Jairus adds, now, I've only used Carbonite once to restore a big group of corrupted files, but it was fairly painless. And it's a really easy process to back your files up. The only downside is if you have gigabytes and gigabytes of files, it's going to take a long time to move all those files back down onto your PC. Now, why does Jared have 200 plus gigabytes of data backed up, including 50 gigabytes of home pictures? He says he's experienced hard drive failures in the past, and, a matter of fact, losing all of his family pictures from the summer of 2003.
He's been burned.
He's been burned bad. Now, for those of you who've mentioned Mosey, let us know if you're using it for backups, because Jared's girlfriend uses the free version of Mosey. The 2 gigabyte limit on the free version covers all of her important school files, but she definitely hates it. And this is a quote. It seems to nag at her constantly that her backup is out of date and simply won't back up on its own. And Mosey seems to slow down her tablet even when it's set to low priority. She isn't willing to shell out $50 a year for Carbonite, but she definitely agrees that Carbonite is way better. So we want to thank Jared for writing in on that one.
That sounds like a definite conversation that's had over the dinner table with Jared and girlfriend.
My computer is slow. It's a freaking Mosey. Turn it off. But I need my backup. Yeah. So that's just one instance of Mosey issues. Maybe the paid version is faster. If you're using Mosey, let us know. We're kind of curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Ooh. All right, and now it's time for Code Red. All you travel addicts out there, this one is for you. Driftr.com is a new travel social networking site and blogging tool that keeps track of all the places you've been in the world by sharing photos, reviews, and blog posts with friends and family. Research places before you book an excursion by reading trip reports and blogs written by fellow Globetrotters. Start by adding a city, state, or country from the drop-down menu. Then add the details of your experience. Upload photos or grab them from your Flickr page. I have to say, I've always wanted to look at a map and see all the places that I've traveled to in my lifetime. There's something so satisfying about that. It's like the new version of, you know, if you had just a map or even a globe and you put a little stray pin on it, you know, X marks the spot that I've been. Your homepage on Driftr serves that purpose. A world map with all the places you've been highlighted. Now, there's no video uploading capabilities as of yet, and the option, you know, to Twitter would be great as well. And some competitors include TripAdvisor, Places, and Doppler. World Wikia also tries to tap into the jet-setting population by having peer-written guides, but Driftr seems to have that more of that personal appeal. And currently it's in private beta, but for the first 20 emails to hello@driftr.com with Techzilla in the subject line, you can sign up. Now, coming up, Novatel has got a new USB EVDO modem, and we're gonna show it off. But first, check this. Have a gaga for gadget friend that is hard to shop for? This holiday, consider a classic, the Navastog Wi-Fi Rabbit. Behind the cute exterior is a bunny that can read off emails, get MP3s, be your alarm clock, stock market updater, and forecast weather. Navastog can also move his ears to communicate in a special language, sense objects, and even tell you the air quality. That's just the start of it. Pick up your new little sidekick for under $100 and find out more at navastog.com.
Big thanks to GoDaddy for reaching out and sponsoring Techzilla. If you want to make an impact online, do it with GoDaddy.com. .com names as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much more. Enter code TECH5, TEK5, when you check out and save an additional $10 off any order of $40 or more. All right. I use an EVDO modem constantly. right? Basically, it's a wireless connection. Sprint and Verizon are two of the best
People love this
providers.
thing. Yes.
And this is the current example of my fabulous U720. It's Novatel Wireless makes it, and this is the one I purchased with Sprint, right?
Okay.
So their new one just came out is the U727, which is this guy.
Much slicker looking with that.
It's much smaller, actually.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much smaller it is. I did a couple other interesting things. Obviously, there's a new design. One of the things I noticed is there doesn't seem to be, oh, there it is. There's the access for the external antenna if you use one. It's got GPS functionality built in, right?
So what is that going to do? How does that translate into your notebook?
Well, it's really nice. Look at the screen, right? So
Okay.
if I've got the modem plugged in, I've got my connection here, and it basically sets up the services, and I can be like, find the nearest restaurant, find the. So the idea is you can use it with. Windows Live, Google Earth, and a bunch of other GPS services. So it functions actually as a GPS device. And my understanding, it's got a full GPS device inside of it, but I'm still trying to learn a little bit more about that. It worked shockingly well inside of our building, which makes me think they're doing location based on cell towers. But the other thing that's kind of strange about this one actually is it's got they're kind of like, it's a 2-in-1 device because you can put a mini SD card, or maybe it's a micro SD card, a little tiny SD card inside of that one.
But that fits 4 gigs.
Well, if you want to pay for a 4 gig card.
Right, but I mean, that's the max. It's an
Yeah,
option.
that's the one. That's the big. I haven't actually seen one of those for sale, so maybe we'll search a little around on Newegg. But basically, you can add in removable storage on that one. So it's kind of a funny, odd collection of devices. One of the nice things compared to the U720 is they actually have a pretty good selection of accessories. The U720 didn't have much in the box. The U727, it's got the little device here, so you can sort of clip it onto the back of your notebook. It's got a USB extension cable, and it's got a neck strap, which I think is a little bizarre, but apparently useful.
Well, I mean, people wear their iPods around their neck, so why not?
They're EVDO modems.
I mean, whatever.
It's a little strange, but it's
Some
actually
hip hop artist is totally gonna make it like fashionable.
Stranger
Like a
things.
new version of bling.
A new version of the clock around your neck. But it's kind of a much more complete kit than it was in earlier versions. I use the USB one because I've got a bunch of Mac notebooks in my life which don't have PC card slots. There's basically competing devices that have PC cards built into them. One thing you should know is if you're outside of a big city or an area with like full EVDO coverage or what they call like Rev A coverage, it scales back to EVDO Rev. I want to say, is it 0 and 1x RTT? And 1x RTT is really slow, like 100 kbps. EVDO typically, if you look at a bandwidth test here, we got like 744K download. That's pretty quick. In theory, the max is like 3 megabits. I've never seen that. But I've occasionally gotten as high as a megabit. 500 is pretty normal. If you're like somewhere like CES, for example, where there's a whole bunch of people logging on, it's a sort of a shared connection, so the speed drops precipitously.
Yeah. So quick question for you. With a person like me, I have singular, service for a cell phone. I have a Mac notebook.
Right.
So if I want one of these, do I have to sign up for a bundled plan,
Well,
or can I just get this and only pay $60 and not try to be upsold?
Well, here's kind of the issue, right? There's 2 reasons I went with Sprint. One is because normally in the past, especially with Verizon and with Sprint, I used a tethered device. So I used my cell phone, I tethered that to my notebook, and used it as kind of an external, sort of modem. And tethering is really good. With my last 2 phones, on Singular, I have not, I've spent a lot of time, a lot of hacks, a lot of, BIOS tweaks, and could not manage to do any kind of tethering to my phone. So I decided to bite the bullet and get the faster speed. Also, I wanted the EVDO Rev A, which would have required me to buy a much fancier phone than I actually wanted. And so I'm actually paying $60 a month just for unlimited access.
Okay.
Now, you can play around if you search around, we'll say Howard's forums, and see, search for your phone and tethering or, dial up. All right. For everybody that wrote in, and there were a ton of you, there are a lot of Zune users in the Textile audience. I want to make it abundantly clear that the Zune can download any podcast you want. All right, let's look at the screen right now. We go to the Add Podcast button, and basically you're going to cut and paste the HTML link from the RSS feed that you want to download.
Okay.
Now, first of all, in my defense, I want to say that the documentation, or what we like to call the manual for the Zune, sucks, and the online documentation isn't any better. And 2, the stuff I did find online made it sound like you could only choose podcasts that were already existing in there. So my apologies, you can download any podcast or video cast you want. And 2, since some people seem to think we were saying you could only play music, that comes off of the Zune marketplace. You can, any MP3, any unprotected WMA file, you can feed into your Zune. Protected WMA files, like DRM files, music you paid for to download. If it's not from the Zune marketplace, it's not gonna work on the Zune. So, MP3, WMA, wherever it's from, if it's not protected, it'll work fine on the Zune.
Got it.
Please stop sending emails now. My apologies.
All right, so we have a viewer mail.
We got a good viewer mail.
Okay. It reads, what is that strange green one-eyed thing on the wall? My wife
Over
asks
there.
every episode, if you could enlighten me, it would provide me with some peace and quiet while I watch. From John.
John, it's an ugly doll.
That's it. It's just one ugly doll. And there's actually a couple more ugly dolls on the set. And I would also just put it out there that it's kind of funny. Patrick, come close to me.
We match?
That, totally unintentional, but we totally match the little dolls over there. It's just me and you, two ugly dolls.
Aww, we're so cute.
That's
It's really strange. They seem to be rotating, by the way. Are you rotating them, Heather? No. Our producer's like, no.
There's nothing to do with it.
Yeah, right.
All right, next email.
You mentioned Juice being cross-platform. I checked out the Juice homepage. There's a Windows and Mac version, but no Linux version. Under the GNU Linux section, there are links to Podnova and iSpotter. Okay, well, thanks for the heads up on that one, Chris. Now, we do want to point out that we passed along the word from Thomas in Missouri who wrote in, and we will double check before we pass along the word from anybody next time.
Yeah, we're getting schooled by our audience. I love it. Keep it coming. Okay, what's next?
You want to read this one?
Sure. I know for a fact that only recent movies and TV are shot in HD. Even so, not all of them. Would upscaling a regular DVD be a smarter, more cost-effective decision rather than taking the HD plunge? From Scott.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the most financially well-off home theater hobbyists we know. Someone who's related, we know this dude, and he did well back in the .com days. He spent like over $1,000 on HD DVD and Blu-ray gear, and decided after spending a lot of money that upscaling DVDs is actually his favorite way to watch movies. There's fewer problems with surround sound, and actually the quality, up to a certain point, is pretty good. Though I actually want to see the battle scenes from Return of the King in next generation high-def DV.
Nerd. Just nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Whatever.
Okay, next one. It reads, will playing video games on a rear projection television damage it? I want to hook my PlayStation 2 up to my 42-inch Toshiba. From Mark.
Only if you throw the controller at the screen, Mark, or if you have a DLP, I should say if you have a DLP or LCD projector, you really don't even have to worry about burn-in, so you can leave that high score screen up forever. Or most any other problem. Game away, have a blast. You're not gonna break your rear projection screen with your PlayStation 2, or your PlayStation 3, or your Wii, or your Xbox 360, or your Activision, or you'll be fine. Sorry.
Good advice, got it. And I think that is all for us. Of course, be sure to email us your questions and comments at techzilla@revision3.com. I think that's a show.
That's it. Oh, you know what? We actually want to tease something. Along with that whole CES thing coming up, we're taking a break for the holidays. We're going to be back with a new episode on Friday. That's the 4th of January, 2008. It's like next year. Where our producer, Neha, she's taking the plunge. She's going geek on us. Going to be building our $500 PC.
I'm gonna want to see that. I'm gonna want to see that.
That's like a rite of passage of a geek.
Oh my goodness.
Are you excited?
Are you scared?
We should point out that she volunteered for this.
All right.
Don't let that sullen look on her face.
That is all we got for you. I'm Jessica Corbin.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
See you guys next time.
Totally. I think he'd be very much into that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need a medic on the set.
Hold my hand. Hold my hand. We're totally them. We're totally them. Look.